All right, guys, we are back again. C2F Fashion and Entertainment, of course.
Whoop, whoop.
I am your host, Aaron Gomes, Gomes with an S. We got our beautiful co-host with us,
It's your girl Danny back with you.
beautiful talent with us,
Breton Tyner Bryan.
and another beautiful co-host with us today.
Hi, I'm Karen Orell. Glad to have you here with us this evening.
Now, of course, we are here and we are excited. You guys have seen this face. You have seen this beautiful face on our page before. She is a friend, and we're excited to talk about your film tonight. So, I'm going to let you talk about it. I want to hear your perspective on this piece for the audience who has never seen it yet.
Awesome. Okay, thanks, Aaron. So we just premiered Delusione here, which is so fantastic to see it on the big screen. And we were actually just talking about it a little moment ago. And it's really about dissociation and the power of memory and how memory can shape what we think happened or didn't. And as time passes, we can create something new to kind of, hold something in a certain way, whether it is positive or negative. So yeah, that's what Delusione is about.
Now, I love the fact that in the film, and of course you guys are going to check out the film. You have to. You have to check out the film. It's beautiful. And it's shot very remotely, very intimately with just two people in a room with no other backgrounds, no other props, pretty much nothing else except for the building that they're in and then the two talents. And it's, for me, I think the part of it that's so powerful is that it's very much left up to the interpretation of the viewer. But what I really fell in love with talking to you is that you do have a specific kind of idea that was going into making this video.
Yes.
Now, of course, you told us what tell me again. Delusione.
Delusional but Italian.
Delusione.
Delusione.
I gotta brush up on my Italian, folks. I'm sorry, I'm working on it. Delusione. It's you starring in this piece with another woman, and you guys are, like you mentioned, crossing paths in time without actually meeting one another there in that very moment.
Correct. Yeah.
Tell me about that.
Thanks for asking. So it's about a layer of memory, and the space that we're in is like a railroad, long linear space. So you just walk through rooms that kind of transform, and it's quite claustrophobic, but it presents as really beautiful and elegant because of the set design. But there's no windows, and it has that feeling to it. So I'm really interested in spaces we walk through about what's happened before, like who stood here before we have, and we might feel them a little bit, but that doesn't mean I'm present with you in the same way. So the idea is that you have two people that revisit their memory, what happened in that space between them, and they're passing through, and they happen to align in a moment in time, but that continues on.
Yeah.
But yes, it's not a warm and fuzzy subject matter, but it is dressed to impress, to lure you in, and then to consider what it means to deal with dissociation. And so it has sort of like a dreamlike space to it to express that unknown for a person that's experiencing that, or when you're observing someone who's going through something like that. And it can seem playful, but it's also, you can be trapped in that. And so the space reflects that, and some of the movement is either very serious or sinister or playful. And I think all those things, we all have that. We all have that. It's sort of what knobs are turned up and turned down depending on our emotional state.
Yeah,
So,
I love that. I love that too. You're the type of artist that really works and connects with the energies of people, places, and times. And I think that's very, very present in your work too.
Thank you. Yeah, very obsessed with time. The expression of time, does it exist? Is it circular? Is it linear? Or have we just landed in a certain spot?
Yeah.
And can
Now-
we go back?
Yeah, I know.
forward.
It's one of those things. It's like we question it a lot of times. It's almost that sense of deja vu, in a
Completely,
means.
yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
Karen, did you have a question?
Actually, was really enthralled with the movie.
Thank you.
So even though it was short, it was very impactful.
Thank you so much.
And one of the things that happened for me is there was this massive dichotomy. I mean, the whole movie to me was about dichotomy in so many ways, because you have two female beings, right? But the one is dressed very masculine, one is very feminine. Even their movements, they have these dichotomies. And you used incredibly unusual camera angles. I mean, very, very dynamic editing. The camera angles, they really catch you. They really do. You're watching this movie and then all of a sudden, whoa, what's happening? And even in the physical movements of the people, that same kind of things happening. How do they do that? What's going on? Almost contorted at parts.
You touched on so many beautiful things. The sort of the contortion of time, of perception, of someone's experience, of someone who's potentially unwell, and how we express that, even though it appears to be quite beautiful at the interior. But I just want to touch on the camera work. That's Michael Burke. That's just his incredible, generous talent and his willingness for me to go, can we flip the camera and shoot the ceiling? And he says, sure, let's try. I'm like, can we walk around with it upside down? He says, sure, let's try it. So that space was actually really tricky to deal with because it's so confined, and the mirrors you'll notice, but he went for it with me, and I knew the mirrors would be really magical. There's often times where you see two of me reflected surrounding a person, almost like with a monstrous feel, but also the mirroring is about facing yourself. What do you see? Are you just consumed with your vanity? And the movement is very theatrical. I'm a very theatrical choreographer, so every movement has an emotion or meaning or a word behind it. So it's really a heavy layer, just like that interior, to the point that it can almost suffocate you a little bit, or you can just decide to get lost in it and not face your reality, whatever that is. And I think we all have time periods that we walk through where we're just trying to make it through, and we're not necessarily as in touch or as present. And sometimes that's a way to survive.
That's the last year. No, like year and a half.
Oh yeah, yeah.
So there was a section close to the beginning, and I want our viewers to get this picture. So you're dressed in a tango dress, and you're doing Argentine tango moves, and it's very striking. But you're in almost like a hallway that's captured you, and you're doing these tango moves, but at the same point you're struggling to get out of that.
Completely.
You're fighting almost with yourself, right?
Completely, yeah.
Yeah.
I love that you picked up on that. So that dress actually I wore last time we were at La Jolla, and Aaron did an interview, and he pointed out, and I was like, I should really make a movie with that dress. And I tend to make things surrounding like a piece of jewelry as my starting point or a dress. So thank you for that, because I hadn't thought. I was like, I just need a red carpet dress, and I was like, oh no, that's a character. We need to put that in. So, but she's loud, and it's over the top, and it's a little bit tight and fitted. But that hallway with the mirrors, for me, represents her being trapped in her own mind with herself, and the other character's waiting to see if she's going to make it out of that space, because the whole hallway is mirrored floor to ceiling. So when you just being in the space, you kind of can't figure out where to go, how to get out of it. So yeah, you nailed it. That's what that really represents. And then she makes it through the other dimension, and then you wonder if the other character is present or well, because she's sort of looking for her exit on the ceiling often in that library space. So so the character in red very much, her home base is the hallway, and the other character's home base is the library space, where she's sort of trying to escape her own mind and reality, and they happen to meet there in their own distorted experiences.
So the building itself, it's almost like a turn of the century building, and the key for me that the building played in this was the time space continuum kind of thing. So it was a certain time, but it wasn't, and so you went through this illusion when you're watching it. It's like, what time is this one? And it made it non-time almost.
That
because
is a huge
of
compliment.
Thank you.
That's like so fantastic. That's an amazing compliment to be non-time. So it is a restored speakeasy, and if you go in and you really look and assess the colors and the textures, they don't all perfectly match in a line to represent like 1912. And I love that, because there's an illusion to it, and you can't quite place your finger on it. Just like dance, it's moving and it's moved on. But yeah, we were super lucky to shoot in that space, and it's actually shut down now because of COVID. So it's wild to walk past it and realize this beautiful moment in time that we had access to it that is no longer. And I don't know if the space will survive or what will happen. But yeah, you totally picked up on that. It is a restored speakeasy, but it is recreated. And there's some flexibility and fluidity with it not being so
Time specific.
Yeah, and like even the wallpaper is not like totally appropriate. The molding is not totally appropriate, but that gives a little bit of a macabre carnival circus vibe for me, which I like to play with. So
It's great building. I was really taken with it.
Yeah.
So
I think it was actually someone's home.
oh, it was.
I think it was a home before it was made into a speakeasy. So
Wow.
it's like in a sort of a restored brownstone on the Upper West Side. So yeah, it's a wild space.
It's a great location. So thank you for joining us.